Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. I'm a combat sports coach and ringside commentator for Kunlun Fight Combat League over here in the People's Republic of China. Welcome to part 5 of my series where I analyze fantastic fictional fight scenes for their accuracy, veracity, and, of course, entertainment factor. Today we're going to look at another fight scene from the series Attack on Titan, which I still haven't seen and I'm watching completely out of context. So if I get these things wrong, nerds out there on the internet, I apologize. So the first scene I analyzed was a fight scene between two giant naked monster men, as far as I can tell, named Eren and Reiner. Some of the people in the comments corrected me that Reiner was the big armored scaly dude and the other guy? Eren is the scrawnier, naked man with the sharp teeth. So, yeah, without further ado, we're going to watch this, and then we're going to break it down and show you how these moves actually work in real life, in the gym. Here we go. Okay, looks like Eren just got punched in the face so hard his naked butt is flying through the trees, and he is rolling through the trees. That must have been some punch. Now, in real life, if you got hit that hard to knock you several miles across a landscape, you would die, but I'm guessing these are super-powered monster creatures of some kind. He's looking out. I mean, his mouth is agape. He's looking off into La La Land. But this guy is having an inner monologue. He's very angry at this other guy. Flashback time. What's happening here? I guess these guys... Some people in the comments explain that these guys are normal people who can transform into these giant naked monster creatures. Oh, he's getting up. He's getting up. That would have been a TKO if this was a combat sport. But apparently this is a fight to the death, so he's getting back up. I've always wondered about these scenes where somebody gets basically knocked out and the other guy just hangs out and waits for him to get back up. If you want to win, especially if you're a bad guy and you have no morals, why don't you just finish it right there? Okay, he's getting back up. He's throwing a punch back at this guy. Hits him square in the face. Reiner, the armored titan, I guess, punches... What's his face? Blanking on the names again. Back down to the floor again. The giant naked man with the pointy ears gets back up. What was his name? Eren. Yeah, Eren, the naked monster man. There is a blonde girl hanging out up on a wall, shouting things. Run this way, don't fight him. You can't do it. Yeah, that's encouraging. I have no idea who these side characters are, but man, Eren looks pissed. He's like screaming, red stuff's coming out of his mouth. He's all like... They've got their jukes up. He's shooting for a punch. But wait, it's a fake. He ducks under. He's shooting in for head and arm control. Ooh, he's got to set up for a nice arm triangle if he wants it. And, oh, he's going for a back step, reaping leg throw right there. Judo nerds, tell me what that's called in Japanese in the comments down below. And he's got a takedown. He's moving. He could easily move into scarf hold right here, Kesugatame, and lock up a triangle, choke, arm triangle, but he does not. Instead, he transitions to mount. But it's a poor mount. He's sitting on his hips. You could totally get bucked off in real life doing this. Which is exactly what happened right there. So, hey, accuracy. But he locks up a triangle choke on the way over. But he's doing that thing all beginners do, which is trying to control the arm instead of trying to control the posture. And he's squeezing with his leg so hard this guy's shoulder is cracking, which tells me a lot of things about how he's doing that triangle incorrectly, which is why it's not working. He transitions to the armbar, sweeps Reiner, the big armored monster dude, on his back, transitions to the top and starts to break the arm with the armbar. He's screaming, wah, rips the arm right off. Okay. The severed arm goes flying through the air, lands almost crushing that little person right there. The armored titan goes running, chunks of his armor breaking off as he goes. Where's he going to? A bird flies by, very stylistic. Oh. Wait, they were right next to each other. Now they're like 30 feet apart. He tackles Eren, begins a ground and pound assault. Eren's thinking his leg. Oh, he's got single X guard right there. He's in a great position. Eren is in a great position to finish this fight right away with a heel hook, but instead he opts for a sweep, gets back up on his feet. Okay. The Armored Titan shoots in again. Eren's like, I can't evade it, he's too fast. So, the thing about anime is they don't really happen in real time. He pulls guard. He's got an arm-in guillotine. Arm-in guillotine right there. Which is kind of funny because the arm-in is the one that broke off, so he really should transition to straight up around the neck guillotine right here. Now he says, now it's a battle of strength, and if you're doing a guillotine correctly, no, it's not a battle of strength at all, it's a battle of position. And right here he does not have the correct position to finish that arm-in triangle. Which is probably why they had a rematch later on, which I covered before. The Armored Titan is posturing up, everyone's looking up this wall. What are they looking at? No idea. That guillotine is not working. Oh, there's some other monster up on the wall. And a ominous shadow looms overhead. Ah, big old skull creature comes down. Okay, that's it. Okay, a few really interesting things about that exchange right there. There were some legitimate techniques being attempted, and what I liked about what I saw was that they showed techniques with failings. They showed techniques with technical inaccuracies that failed. And that's good, and I'll tell you why. A lot of times I see TV shows and movies where they have fight scenes where they're trying to show jiu-jitsu techniques or something like that, and they do them wrong and they still work. A great example would be the Iron Fist TV show, which should have been awesome. You know, Marvel Comics martial arts superhero, but instead it wasn't great. At least the fight scenes weren't great, man. But there's a fight scene between a girl and she's having this cage match with two big, strong guys, and she does quite possibly the worst omoplata I have ever seen, one of the only omoplatas I've seen on film. But it's a terrible omoplata that totally would not have worked in real life, but in the TV show it breaks the guy's arm. And I hated that because it's not realistic. So the great thing that I will give props to in the scene in Attack on Titan is that when Eren's submission attempts didn't work, they didn't work for sound, justifiable reasons, because he was out of position to make them work. And that is why the Armored Titan was able to escape and transition to another attack. So yeah, props to the people who made Attack on Titan for that. I don't know if that was a deliberate artistic choice or just animators not really understanding how to animate jiu-jitsu technically correctly, if you will. But now let's take a look. We'll go over to the gym and break down these techniques in real time with real people, and we'll show you how they work in real life. The first technique we're going to break down is when Eren fakes a right hand, then slips a punch, ducking under, getting head and arm control, and then throwing his opponent to the ground by applying forward pressure, falling, and reaping the outside leg, falling to the ground. Let's show that in real life. I duck under Nick's punch, step behind, elevate his legs off the ground with my own, fall on top of him. What they didn't do in the movie, however, was set up an arm triangle finish, which is a simple transition from a head and arm throw. Here it is, full speed. This is a fascinating throw from a historical perspective because it is one of the original samurai jiu-jitsu techniques. Here's Nick pretending that pool noodle is a samurai sword. I shoot between his arms, grab him in a head and arm clinch. From that clinch I can either throw him, as they did in the video, or choke him immediately. It is, however, much easier to choke a grounded, pinned opponent than it is from a standing position. But since nobody carries swords with them anymore, a haymaker will have to do. Pay close attention to the arm and hand position of the arm triangle choke shown here. When I shoot under Nick's arm, throw him to the floor, I apply that same arm position on the ground. Let's now analyze why Eren got rolled off so easily when he was sitting in full mount. Full mount is a riding position, not a sitting position. If you lean over looking down at your opponent, your posture is broken. If you're sitting on your opponent like this, then your hips are attached to your opponent's hips, and you will move exactly where they move. Here I'm sparring with Nick. Notice when I get to full mount, I move up into the highest position possible, elevate my hips above him, so there is space between my pelvis and his body. If you want to strike your opponent from full mount, high mount from this high riding position is essential. That's a wrist lock, by the way. That's how you do it, Aikido nerds. Pin your opponent first. Let's take a look at a mistake I made in this exhibition fight with my friend Rex. I go to all of this trouble, spending a great deal of energy passing his guard, controlling his hips, doing everything technically correct to move into full mount, but then Rex pulls me forward, keeps my posture broken, and keeps my hips attached to him, so that when he bridges, I roll over. In this next sparring session with Nick, he attempts the same thing to control my posture and attach my hips to his. I manage to regain my posture, elevate my hips into that riding position where I can throw strikes, and transition to S-mount. Let's take a look at the triangle armbar combination and a bit of magical teleportation toward the end that happened off camera. A transition between a triangle choke and an armbar is standard. Every fighter should know how to do this. Sweeping your opponent from that position is simple. However, right here, Eren seems to teleport from one position to a completely different position to finish the armbar. The position he finishes in is legit, but how he got there is a mystery. Here, Nick gets a reversal. Now he's on top in my guard. I throw up my legs over his shoulder, catching his head and an arm in a triangle position. As I said before, Eren's big mistake was trying to control the arm instead of trying to control the posture. If I don't want Nick to stand up, I should be controlling his head, pulling him down into the choke. Even if I make this mistake, I can still transition to the armbar by throwing my left leg over Nick's head and then hyper-extending the elbow. Now right here, I'm showing the position that Eren teleported to. It took a bunch of extra time and gave my opponent all kinds of openings that I shouldn't be giving him. My preferred method of finishing a triangle choke after clearing the shoulder is to roll my opponent onto their side, where they do not have the option to stack or use top pressure. A sweep is not necessary to finish the armbar from this position. In fact, the triangle to the armbar transition usually makes the armbar extremely tight, making the sweep redundant. But it is nice to have your opponent on their back as opposed to on top of you, which does make the finish easier, limiting your opponent's escape options. Once again, this is the position Eren teleported to finish that armbar and break off the Armor Titan's arm. Let's take a look at some cage tactics, wall tactics, when the Armor Titan tackles Eren with a double leg takedown, and Eren switches to single X guard. This is an excellent position to set up heel hooks, but instead, Eren sweeps his opponent and stands back up. Sometimes that's a smart idea. Here I demonstrate how to do the technique. I kick one leg through my opponent's stance. I'm in a position to lock up the heel hook as shown here, and also an excellent position to unbalance and sweep my opponent, returning to my feet if I so desire. Once again, I kick my leg through my opponent's stance, put myself in a position where I can heel hook or sweep my opponent. One more time for another angle. Kick the leg through, up onto the hip, elevate the hips, unbalance my opponent. Down we go. Last technique we're going to analyze is the arm in guillotine choke. The Armor Titan shoots in for a takedown. Eren pulls guard and attempts an arm in guillotine choke. The big problem here, Eren is flat on his back. You cannot finish a good arm in guillotine from flat on your back. As he says in the cartoon, it's all about strength now, and from that position, yeah, he's technically correct. If you squeeze the guy to death, sure. But take a look at how Bradley Scott from Fight Perfect TV does the arm in guillotine. Go check out their channel. They have an excellent guillotine tutorial. Also, check out Neil Melanson at the Hayabusa channel. He has an amazing arm in guillotine tutorial. Check it out. If you don't know what an arm in guillotine is, basically, I have my arm around Nick's head and under his arm. We'll show that from the opposite side right here. and I apply pressure by changing the position of my body, not simply by squeezing as hard as I can. There are a few different ways to finish and a few different grips we can employ, but I'm going to tell you, this is not my preferred method of finishing a guillotine choke. The arm in guillotine is an extremely technical maneuver, so whenever possible, I prefer to switch to the head-only guillotine. Notice I put my grip between my chest and Nick's shoulder. If he can press his shoulder to my chest, I don't have the guillotine. But when I create that space to get my hands through, I can make it very tight. Notice I changed the position of my head as well. In order to get my grip into that position, I get my body onto my side, my legs wrapped around his body in this position. I'm not a big fan of attempting to finish a guillotine from a closed guard like Eren attempted in the movie, because it pins your shoulders to the floor and takes away the position that you actually need to finish the choke and apply pressure to the carotid arteries. Notice I lean my head as far as I can to the right, which allows me to elevate my arms into the correct position between his shoulder and my chest. You'll also notice I'm using an S grip instead of many of the other conventional grips that you will use for an arm in guillotine in no-gi grappling. This is for a very specific reason. In mixed martial arts, the gloves vary from promotion to promotion. Some of the gloves make it very difficult to get your hands in a more standard ball and socket type of grip. But the S grip, regardless of what kind of fingerless gloves that you wear, is always going to be available. At first glance, the arm in guillotine and the standard guillotine look like simple techniques you could pick up instantly, but it takes a lot of practice to get these right. So, as I always say, thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.